next, we tell you what the National Democratic Congress has been discussing with civil society and also the media and some notable persons about the voters register after their last week that enough is enough demonstration. We were there to hear exactly what they had to say. We remain your election command center. National Democratic Congress NDC is saying it does not trust the Electoral Commission to deliver a free and fair election this year. According to the party, the Electoral Commission has lost its reliability and credibility, describing its posturing as biased and full of self-interest. Now, at a meeting earlier today with civil society organizations and other interest groups, the NDC once again made a strong case for an independent audit of the 2024 voters register, which was exhibited. We'll also be connecting shortly with our reporter, Christian Yali, who was there for us earlier today. But first, let's take a listen to what the NDC Director of IT and Elections, Dr. Edward Omanebwama, outlined as some of the key observations of the party.
When we met the EC on 6th of September this year, we alluded to the fact that 243,540 previous transfers had been added to the 2024 transfers. And some of them were repetitions of the names, so double error. You transfer the person and then they repeat the names. Another is the 15,000 unidentifiable voter transfer paths. Over 15,000 people transferred. So over 15,000 people who have been transferred, but we don't know where they came from. Where did they register? Which station did they register? Which district office? Could it be that these people were surreptitiously registered in bedrooms, in garages, because we cannot trace where they were registered? Over 3,000, almost 4,000 names that were in the 2023 register completely deleted from the 2024 provisional register. Completely deleted. 2,094 transferred voters, you can't find them in the absent voters list. So they transferred, but their names are not in the absent voters list. Okay, corrupt files. You don't find any name, you don't find photos, you don't even find the age.
Well, that's Dr. Omanebwama. They also outlined the following demands which the party wants the Electoral Commission to act on immediately. Take a look.
We want a forensic audit of the register. And not just the register, but its IT system. We need to note this. We told them, look, you lack capacity. Bring in UNDP and let them provide technical support. They never worked on that. Electoral Commission has clenched. They are holding on. They are holding on. But what they are holding on, like barbed wires, they should unclench. It will hurt them. So they should unclench. Because we want to identify the root causes of the avoidable errors. We want to identify the scale of the problem. We want to diagnose the IT vulnerabilities, including late activation of the liveliness test. Was it deliberate? Well planned? They should convene stakeholders, political parties, CSOs, ECOWAS, AU, UNDP, EU, USAID, the British High Commission, and others for collaboration. They should agree to publish the findings of the forensic audit. They should re-exhibit the register after the forensic audit, review and correct all unauthorized transfers, adopt a revised timeline for electoral activities without compromising the 7th December election date. And when we say this, look, it was this same EC that said they wanted to run the elections in November. You all heard it, until we fought it. and they should institute accountability and integrity measures to prevent future manipulation of the voters' register.
That's Dr. Manu Buama, Director of IT and Elections for the NDC. Now, we can now bring in our reporter, my colleague Christian Yale, who sat through the entire presentation earlier this evening. And Chris, I know you spoke to some invited personalities first off, but clearly tell us what the mood in there was, what the reaction in there was, especially from the CSOs who were gathered in there.
Right, Alfred, thanks for connecting with me. And so I have been speaking to Professor Kobi Mensah, who is a political marketing strategist with the University of Ghana Business School. He agrees to an independent audit of the voter register. He even mentions, for instance, that but for today's presentation by Dr. Edward Omane-Boamah, he wouldn't have known that the observations and the identified issues are as grave as the NDC has presented them. But also, aside from him, I've been talking to Professor Ransford Jampo, who is a professor of political science with the University of Ghana Political Science Department, who, for instance, makes the case that if the demand for a forensic audit is what is probably causing the EC's reluctance, then the NDC should look at an alternative way of addressing this issue by asking that all political stakeholders, and by way of extension probably IPAC, sit so that these issues would be tabled one after the other so that we have a consensus reached. Right. He also talks, among other things, about how some civil society organizations become very quiet when a political party is in power, and the same groups become very vociferous when another regime is in power. He believes that that does not augur well for the country, but all in all, he believes that there should be a pathway to addressing these issues so that the country gets a credible and peaceful election that will safeguard the credentials of our democracy. These are some of the things that both of them have been telling me.
Good
Alfred.
Stuff. Chris, thank you. Thank you so much. And if you just hold on for me, let's hear from Professor Kobi Mensah, as you spoke to him earlier today. And also Professor Ransford Jampo, who is a professor of political science at the University of Ghana, Legon, who were all part of the audience earlier today. Let's take a look at them.
We already had a certain view of what the demands were, but I particularly didn't actually think that it was as grave as what has actually been pointed out. Clear evidences of lapses, gaps, all right, that had been actually presented. I think that the way forward is for the EC to actually take a positive position. Obviously institutions are not perfect, processes are not perfect. You could actually acknowledge some of the lapses and perhaps call for a consensus, call for a certain, a kind of a relationship, win-win, I should put it, so that we can resolve this in order that we could have a very, fairer, process, a very, comprehensive process.
I am not saying that, and I don't know for a fact that somebody has deliberately done something that is wrong, at the EC. But my point is, if it so happens that somebody did something deliberately or inadvertently, and then you say that let there be forensic audit, it becomes a bit difficult for the person managing the commission to say, yes, I've easily acceded, to that. Because if someone under the headship of the commission has done something culpable or something untoward, then it means you are just going to throw the person under the bus. Yeah. So if that's all they are looking for, so that the credibility of the voters' roll would not be questioned, then if it wouldn't hit, why don't we all say that let the Electoral Commission sit down with all the stakeholders, the NDC, the MPP, and all the other political parties. Let them sit down. And then at a go, let all of them dialogue about some of these issues. I believe that at such a forum, the NDC will be comfortable to table or bring out all its issues.
That's Professor Ransford Jampo, Professor of Political Science at the University of Ghana, Legon, also Professor Kobe Mensah. He is also a senior lecturer at the University of Ghana Business School. He's a political marketing strategist there as well. Now, that call for dialogue is what's going to, Dr. Asasante is going to be joining me in a bit, but let's establish first off that we hit the streets earlier today with the People's Voices segment here on Ghana Tonight. Now, some of you also have been sharing your thoughts with us about this call for the audit of the voters register. Take a look.
Not even politicizing this. It's a sign of transparency to the registered voter who is going to vote. And the brouhaha arising really means that there is something wrong somewhere. Our elders say there is no smoke without fire.
An EC official came out and he said in 2016 we had trees and plants, animals in the voters registration or the voters register, and the NDC didn't come out for any auditing. I think we shouldn't relate this to any political thing, because this issue is something that is trending and Ghanaians are really interested in it. And if the EC doesn't audit the voters register, it means Ghanaians are losing trust and credibility that we have in the EC.
Said the NDC for an answer Ghana 4% yeshim or say yeshim. Because say idea or one hour see yeshim. Now say who did this idea na yeshim no a correcta my yeshim. So who did this say and ya correct there and a owner usru. So I catch them say no the bonnet will be phone so. Now me see me near the bonnet will be phone so. I was say you checking me phone so. Say me see at the bonnet in this tsunami say me my own show phone so that means at the bonnet then our phone so. Intimate me don't say the almost call it for say you should register no. I correct say was say yeshim.
Honestly, I don't care. I mean, those in charge should just come together and do the right thing. Whatever that may be, they should just come together and do the right thing. But then again, were they just fired or was something else done to them? Because if it's just firing them, then I think people will continue to take the law into their own hands and then do some of these things. So if there are harsher punishments, maybe it would deter others from doing that.
Me my dream training say asunju aye penti isi oma kwan na omo hwehwe mu na truth no ember out na bibia so entwa na asunju embra na ye ansa na ye be ye vote na ntiase aba na asunju.
And this is the People's Voices segment here on Ghana Tonight. We bring the microphone to you and to your community to have a say in what we say here on Ghana Tonight. Dr. Kwame Asasante is a political science lecturer, senior lecturer for that matter, University of Ghana Political Science Department, is joining us on Zoom. Appreciate your time. Thank you for joining us here on Ghana Tonight. You hear some of the people on the street, and including Professor Jampo, make the call for a dialogue. Now, if this call for an audit, Professor Asasante, is so considered, how will that impact on the trust and confidence and the credibility for the Electoral Commission going into these polls?
Thank you for the opportunity, Alfred. In politics, particularly so when we are talking about elections, the main issue is trust. That when all the players in the political game have trust issues, then it becomes a whole new ball game altogether. That said, it tells you that the management of electoral process, it must be organized in such a way that there is always the opportunity to win the confidence of the key players. Sometimes too, I admit that sometimes there are differences, but at the end of the day, reason prevails and then people sit down and then arrive at a certain conclusion. So if this issue, if the election management board that is the EC, decide to, allow for audits, first of all, it's going to enhance the electoral process and allay the fears of all those who have concerns with the register. Two, it gives people the confidence to believe in the system, trusting that what they will churn out, that is the Electoral Commission, after the whole exercise, will be nothing but a true reflection of the people's mandate, and that will engender confidence, and then it deepens the democratic process. So I believe that the way things are going, the best option is for Electoral Commission to allow the audit to happen, because I know from where I sit, and I am not sure that the Electoral Commission has anything to hide. So if they go through the audit, they should be able to address all the concerns, because let's face it, the issues that the NDC are raising relative to the problems with the register, they are not things that can be swept under the carpet. No. They are talking about what? Illegal transfer of votes. They are talking about the fact that somebody also tempered with the system. They also talk about certain huge, numbers that are associated with the illegal transfer and the rest of them. Even one is a ban now for Electoral Commission to undermine the whole electoral process. So once these things have been brought to the fore, I think that given the circumstances surrounding it, and that the NDC doesn't want to sit down for this thing to be addressed with the Electoral Commission and all that, I think the best way out is that call for the audits, audit it, and then all the key actors will be happy with that. Let us remember that it is not only the NDC which is supporting this position, but we have had other groups that also have been brought on board supporting the issue. So I think for peace to prevail and for us to go through a smooth process that is devoid of any irregularity, this is the first test that we need to clear. And it is to make sure that a decision that is taken will, allay the fears of all those who have problems with the system.
Right, so Dr. Asante, appreciate your time, and then make a comprehensive point and detail with that issues that you put out there. Thank you very much for joining us. And then again, we'll see how the coming days will play out, especially with the calls for dialogue, consideration, and so on, and whether that is also going to be also an area of consideration. Thank you, Dr. Kwame Asante is a senior lecturer at the University of Ghana, Political Science Department.